Welcome to Unit 3. In this unit, we are going to deal with the various types of companies. Now, the companies can be classified based on incorporation, the liability, the number of members, their control, and their ownership. Now, let's see one by one. First, let us see incorporation. Based on incorporation, the company can be, there can be various types of companies. It can be statutory, it can be registered, or a chartered company. Now, what is a statutory company? A company which is formed under a statute of the Parliament is known as a statutory company. For example, the Reserve Bank of India, the State Bank of India, the NABARD, that is the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development. These are all statutory companies because they have their own statutes. They are formed by their own statutes. So these companies are known as statutory companies. Any other company, all other companies other than statutory companies come under what is called the registered companies. So any other company which you see anywhere, they all come under the broad category of registered company. Now, regarding the chartered company, it is only for academic purpose. A company that is formed by the charter of the Queen of England is known as a chartered company. In fact, we don't have any chartered company in India now. We had earlier we had the English East India Company, which was a chartered company. Now we don't have a chartered company. It's only for academic interest that we study a chartered company. So there are three types of companies based on incorporation: the statutory company, the registered company, and the chartered company. Now, the next one is based on liability. Now, based on liability, a company can be a limited liability company or an unlimited liability company. Now again, we have seen that prior to independence, an act was enacted wherein all companies registered in India has been declared as limited liability company. Now we have in fact only limited liability companies and we don't have unlimited companies. Again, unlimited companies only for the purpose of academics that we learn. Now, limited companies can be any of the following three. It can be limited by shares. 100% more than about 90% of the shares are limited by of the company are limited by shares. There can also be limited companies which are limited by guarantee, and there can also be companies which are limited by both shares and guarantee. When it is limited by shares, we have what we call the people subscribing to the shares from the beginning itself, and we have seen earlier how the liability of a company that is limited by shares goes. In guarantee, the members of the company guarantee certain amount, and they have to bring in that particular amount when a company is wound up. So their requirement arises only at the time of winding up. And there are companies, a hybrid between both of them, that is limited by shares as well as guarantee. Now, the next is companies can be classified based on the number of members. This is a very important classification which we should go in detail. So, based on the number of members, a company can be either a private company or a public company. Now let's see what a private company is. A private company is one which restricts the right of transfer of the shares, and it has a minimum membership. It can be started with a minimum membership of 2. It has a limit with respect to the maximum membership also. The maximum membership of a private limited company is 200. So there can be there should not be more than 200 members in a private company. If in a private company the membership surpasses the maximum limit of 200, then as early as possible the company should amend its articles of association and convert the company into a public company. The private company prohibits any invitation of public to subscribe to the shares or debentures. Well, in the case of private limited company, the shares are normally subscribed by the friends or relatives of the promoter. So they cannot ask the public. They cannot bring out a prospectus and ask the public to subscribe for the shares of this particular. Now, a private limited company can be registered with a minimum capital of 1 lakh rupees. So, with a small amount of 1 lakh, a private company can be registered. And there should be a minimum of 2 directors. So, even if there are only 2 members, these 2 members can even be the directors of the company. So, there can be both 2 members as well as 2 directors also. And all private companies will have the name private limited, so its name will end with private limited. For example, XY private limited. Now the next is public company. Public company is one which is not a private company, so a company which doesn't have the restrictions which are given under listed under the private company, we can call that a public company. So it does not restrict the number of members. There can be n number of members, unlimited members, and they can invite public to subscribe to the shares of the company. So they can bring in what is called the prospectus. That's another important document in addition to memorandum of association and articles of association. We'll be seeing the details about the prospectus in due course of time. So they can bring out a prospectus and invite the public to subscribe to the shares. Then the shares of a public limited company are freely transferable. If it is listed in a stock exchange, it can be sold in the open market anytime by anybody. And while the minimum capital paid up capital of the private company is 1 lakh, the minimum paid up capital of a public company is 5 lakh. So to begin a public limited company, there should be a minimum paid up capital of 5 lakh. And there should be a minimum of 3 directors for a public company. It should include the name, include the word limited along with the name. For example, if you see any company which is listed in the stock exchange, or the most of the companies, for example, Reliance Industries Limited, the Federal Bank Limited, JK Siemens Limited, n number of companies, they all end with what we call the word limited. However, there are certain exclusions to this particular issue wherein we should include the name limited. For example, if we see the public sector banks, there are about 21 odd public sector banks. These banks are exempted from putting the word limited at the end of the name. For example, we see only State Bank of India and we don't see State Bank of India Limited. We see the Canara Bank and not the Canara Bank of India Limited. So these are the only companies which are exempted from using the word limited. Right, all the nationalized banks, they are exempted from including the word limited. Now, when we learn about private company and public company, for the last many years I've been teaching this particular subject, and I've come across a common error that is committed by a large number of students. So when I ask them the difference between the public company and a private company, the first thing they come out, they say is that a public company is a company whose shares are owned by, the majority of the shares are owned by the government. This is absolutely wrong. Please be advised that a public company is not a company for which the government owns 50% or above. A company in which the government owns 50% and above is known as a public sector company and not a public company. So a public company, as one, we have seen the details of the public company over here. This is a company which is a public company. So please do understand that there is a lot of difference between a public company and a public sector company. A public company is not one in which the central government or any government for that matter owns 50% of shares. So please be careful with that. Now, next we have to see is the company based on the classified based on the control. Based on control, the company can be a holding company or a subsidiary company. Now, what is a holding company? A holding company is a company that holds more than 50% of issued share capital of another company. Or it is one which holds 50% of the voting power of another company. Or it should have a power to appoint or control the composition of the directors of another company. So, if a particular company is having the is holding 50% issue share capital of a company B, or having 50% voting power of a company B, then we can say that the first company is the holding company, and we can call the B company to be a subsidiary company. Now, what is a subsidiary company? It's very evident. If a holding, it's the opposite of the holding company. If a holding company controls composition of the board of directors, or another company exercises or controls more than half of the voting power, or if it holds more than half of the nominal value of equity shares, or if the company is a subsidiary of another subsidiary company, then we can call this as a subsidiary company. So next, what we have to see is the type of company based on ownership. Based on ownership, a company can be a government company. Now, what is a government company? A government company is a company in which a government, either state or sender holds not less than 50% of the share capital. I told you earlier, it is also known as a public limited company. Now, it can also be a foreign company, a company which is incorporated outside India, but which has its place of business in India. It's known as a foreign company. There are many companies, there are many foreign companies which are operating in India too. Now, we also have what we call the one-person company. This was an addition in the Companies Act of 2013. So, a one-person company, as the name denotes, is a company which has only one person as member. And definitely and invariably, this one person will also be the director of the company. Now, there are certain other forms of the company which we have to see, which doesn't come under the earlier classification. Let's see one by one. The first one is a non-trading company. A non-trading company is a company which is not for profit. So it is incorporated not for profit. It is registered with limited liability, as in the other case. It has a limited liability, and normally it does not use the word limited or private limited company with its name. And the purpose of this particular company will not be trade or commerce, but it can be the promotion of commerce, art, religion, science, charity, etc. So its primary intention is not to make profit. It's the promotion of all these things for which it is incorporated. And this company will have the same privilege and obligations of any other limited. So this company is a non-trading company. And the next one which you have to see is the producer company. Again, as the name denotes, it's a company which is for the production of goods or services. This company is normally intended to corporatize cooperatives. So it is another form of the cooperatives. And it means a producer company is a producer. A producer means any person who is engaged in the activity connected with any primary produce like agriculture, animal husbandry, handloom, handicraft, and the like. So a person who is involved in such activities can register what is called a producer company. A producer company can be formed by either 10 or more of individual producers, or 2 or more producer institutions. And it can even be a combination of 10 or more individuals and producer institutions also. Now, the next we have to see the objectives of producer companies could include the following. They are procurement, production, harvest, marketing, selling, exporting, distilling, brewing, canning, and packaging of products of its members only. That's very important. It should not take from other persons. It should definitely be from its members only. and it would be providing education and related service, consultancy services, training and R&D, etc. to its members. It could also involve conservation of resources like water, power, land, etc. And it can provide insurance, financial and credit services to its members, and not anybody else. It cannot give these services to the general public. And the next one is it can provide welfare measures and other facilities for the benefit of the members. It should be limited to the members and not anybody else. And another one is an associate company, which we have to see is an associate company. A company that has a significant influence over another company, which is not a subsidiary company or is a joint venture company, is known as a company. This significant influence means having control of at least 20% of the share capital or business decision. So in a holding company, we saw that there should be a minimum of 50%. So if you hear it's a mere 20%. So if a company has 20%, then we call it an associate company. And now let's recap what we have seen. We have seen the various types of companies, and what are the various types of companies. We have seen the companies based on incorporation. We have seen based on liability, the number of members, the control, and ownership. So now we'll come to unit number 4.